Hi, this is journaling with cartoons. Sorry for the dodgy camera right at the beginning. I was experimenting and I thought, I wonder whether people would like to see just how quick and simple the drawing the cartoons is, and maybe encourage you to do it. I'm kind of thinking sometimes when I watch videos, I just want something calming and relaxing to watch, and also maybe inspiring in that I'll have a go at doing it at some point. But this is what I do. This is the journaling with cartoons. So it tends to start with a particular phrase or words, or it tends to lately. This is what it seems to be at the moment. And this one was connecting the dots. So it's not always a quote as such. Sometimes it's just words that jump out at me. I'm watching a YouTube video and they say something and I think, oh yeah, that's like a useful little group of words. And so I want to write it down. So this was connecting the dots. And then I don't tend to have an idea of what I'm drawing. I write connecting the dots and then I decide where I want my person to be roughly on the page. So sometimes, I tend to draw a circle for the head first of all. And this one I just decided that she needs to be looking the other way. I was saying just rearranging the dots. I think in hindsight there's a lot going on for me at the moment, and I'm thinking about my identity and things like that. So there's definitely a journaling element of this, of me seeing what ideas come up. You can see that this one had some writing on, and then I'm doing the frame around it and writing my name. That's kind of how I get started. And you'll see that the app I'm using is Procreate. I did start with just felt tip and pens and paper, but I was quite lazy about updating them, so having this Procreate app was useful. What I do is, you may see, what am I doing with that little blue thing there? It's called layers, and sometimes, so I'm rewriting the words here. Sometimes I do a new layer because I'm not sure what I'm doing, and this way you can switch the layer off rather than rubbing the whole thing out. And this one says letting good things happen. So I'd already written down the words. I probably wrote them down a week or so ago, and I'm now thinking that's what's happening, letting good things happen. And I don't know whether you can tell, I really don't know what I'm about to draw. So I start with the first circle of the first person, and then I see, and I'm thinking about the words letting good things happen, because the words jumped out to me and meant something, and clearly it was something that was on my mind. There was something connecting and resonating. So I'm trying to figure out what that is. I'd also been thinking quite a lot about the subject of friends. So I suppose at this point, I didn't want them to be holding hands. I wanted them to be reaching towards each other. It's funny, as I'm watching this, I was thinking I quite like them without eyes and a face. But I do tend to do eyes and a face. So there you go. I'm always the red dress girl, or the girl in the red dress. So I'm colouring in the red. I spoke to a branding expert and she was saying how red is courage and confidence and different things like that. I just chose red. I think I must have just had a set of felt tip pens that was black, blue, green, red or something when I first started, and so I automatically just a little red triangle dress. But when I'm teaching others to do the journaling with cartoons, then we talk about whether the dress is going to be a triangle or lots of things that you can change to make it reflect you. Now I'm just looking at the video thinking, what words? So I wrote down, I'm struggling with this thing, but... I'm struggling with this thing, but... And I can't remember what I drew. So there's a little bit of a mystery. Ah, right, I've remembered this one now. So when I'm thinking of the words, I'm thinking I'm struggling with this thing. I'm struggling. What would I struggle with? What situation can I put my character that would be struggling or kind of silly? So I was thinking I'll put her in big clown trousers. I've been drawing for a little while now, well, about 4 or 5 years. I used to do it when I was really young, but doing the journaling as such with it, I've been doing for a little while. So I do know kind of iconic shapes, and certainly as soon as you draw a clown face, most people recognise that, or the big shoes. So I don't have to be really good at drawing to be able to do that. I'm just changing the colour. When I'm teaching again, I always say that I talk about the idea of happy accidents, which I think is Bob Ross, isn't it? Bob Ross for the painting. And he says about when things go wrong, using that in the painting. So you'll see as I'm drawing and having a go at different things, some things go wrong. I think it makes them better. I think there's times where if I was a better artist, I wouldn't make the cartoons that I do. I think I'd probably take longer on them and they wouldn't have the same energy. This one, I think, says noticing what I'm choosing. And again, you'll see that I've drawn the frame. I've done my name just outside the box on the left hand. And I'm kind of calming myself down. Sometimes it's a blank screen, and so I start with the frame. But this particular drawing session, I'd scribbled down some words as I'd been hearing them on YouTube. So this was noticing what I'm choosing. And you'll see it takes me a second, but I don't always know what I'm going to be drawing next. And I know when I was recording this, I was trying to forget that there was a camera on. Oh, that's interesting. You see what I did there? I got a little bit stumped, and I think I was overthinking it. So I just had a quick look. Is there anything else that I can just keep the flow going? And this was one that I'd started to draw this person. I'd given her antlers. I don't know where that came from. And at this point, I don't have any idea of what her face should be, what her expression is. That little dial on the left that I've just done is the width of the line that I'm drawing with. You may find if you're doing felt tip pens, I tend to use a fine, what's it called? I can't remember what the name of the pen is, but I tend to use a fine tip. And there's a guy called Struthless, who's got a YouTube channel, and he talks about art. And he was saying how the one thing that made a huge difference is the type of pen and the width of the line, and that just using a slightly wider line made it much easier to do the drawings. I think the finer tip ones show up the problems a little bit more. So I'm flitting through. I'm laughing because I still haven't finished this one. I was attempting to draw a net that was being thrown over somebody, but I wasn't quite sure. So I get these ideas of I'm going to draw a net, but I don't always know where it's going to go. Not sure I can see what that says. Ah, you could make this work. Struggling to see my own handwriting. So clearly I've written this down. I've decided that it's somebody other than me who's going to make something work. And I remember when I was drawing this, I'm colouring it in so that I can do the black lines over top. I remember when I was drawing this thinking, what is it they're going to be telling me that I can make work that I clearly don't think is going to work? So I did, sometimes I colour in the clothes of the people to give myself a moment to think. But I'm definitely thinking at this point, what is it they're saying? What is it they're being positive about? Which I wouldn't feel particularly positive about. And again, I've done an extra layer on this because I'm drawing over the top of my character. So what I've decided is I like my character. This is an experiment. I don't know whether this will work. And I could just get rid of that layer of the drawing. But I did actually decide to keep this. So yeah, I find that it gives me a certain feeling. Sometimes it sort of tickles and entertains me. Sometimes it seems a bit sad, but there's normally some message in it. What does this say? Bringing a lot of stuff up for me. And then I'd written in a little thought bubble, I think, do I like this? Bringing a lot of stuff up for me. Like I said before, I've just had a load of branding photos. I've had a conversation with somebody doing branding, and there was a lot of stuff coming up in my head. So when you look at this, it is very much journaling, as in what's on my mind, and then there are a few prompts and a few words, but I don't know what's going to come out. I like to think there's a little bit of improv too, which probably seems ridiculous because I'm working alone. But I am thinking, if something goes wrong, where do I go with this? Now this one's interesting because I'm starting with an image. I've just decided I'm going to draw somebody in the middle of the square. But I don't know whether you can tell from how long it's taking me, is that I don't really know what I'm doing. And so sometimes what I might do is, oh, she's reaching up. That's what I was thinking at the time I was drawing. It's like, okay, I can do her. Oh, what if I do one arm up in the air? But I don't know what it's going to feel like. So I did one arm up in the air, and it felt like she was reaching to something. And again, the colouring in is kind of a way for me to slow down and just think. I'm not overly familiar with Procreate. I don't consider myself an artist as such, so I'm thinking now, how would I get that effect? How does that work? And sometimes I would say, sometimes I'd say to myself, oh no, that didn't work, and then I'll start again. But a lot of the times, see, that one didn't work. I forgot to do the line of the pen thin again. So she's up in the air, but something is keeping her held down. The little dash marks are supposed to be like some kind of movement. I say it'll be a bit of a giveaway. And you see, I messed up my colour there. I don't want to colour my sun in black. So although I'll say there are happy accidents, sometimes when I use the wrong colour, I keep it, but sometimes I think, oh no, that just detracts. And in this, I haven't really explained what the grey squiggly line is, but I still think it gives a particular feeling. And that's the point of it for me, is that as I'm looking back on the cartoons, I have a particular feeling that's being communicated to me. I think here I'm experimenting with a face. Does that sound right? I'm also probably thinking, what is she saying, or what words are there? Because I do like to combine my words with the image. And you'll see I'm about to share some other videos. There's something really fascinating to me about how words can have one meaning, and then you add an image, and that image has got a different meaning, but you put the two together, and then there's a third meaning, and then you change the frame or change something outside of the picture, and it gives it a different meaning again. And I like that. For me, that's the whole point of that. Well, that's the whole fun of it. That things can be understood in different ways. Oh, okay, I think I've made her looking at the ground rather than looking up to the sky. And I wanted to try and draw here the idea that she's kind of trying to shake a leg, or trying to... And I was thinking, how can I make this look like it's being moved? But then it ended up being too dark. I think I changed this. It's funny, this one's taken me quite a long time to draw, but I'm not thinking, what else should I be doing? I'm thinking completely focused about how she's feeling and if there's any words that I need to add. So you can see, I tend to have quite a few on the go at any one time. This is how I flit around. Very often I'll do a dozen or so. And here again, you can see that I've scribbled down words, and I may decide, oh, that's too much of a scribble, I need to rewrite those. And I may not. So this one says words of encouragement. I've been listening to Jordan Peterson, and he was talking about words of encouragement and just how important it was. And sometimes I write these things down almost as a reminder to myself that words of encouragement are important. It's funny watching it back now, though, because I can see that I really don't know what shall I draw. And so at this point I've thought, draw a landscape rather than a person. I must have been thinking, where would my person be, and not really knowing. So what I've done is I've kind of prompted myself of, where is this, rather than who is this. And I've decided that it's going to be on a hill. And that words of encouragement could be about getting up the hill. And I don't know whether you can tell, but I've drawn two little ants. And the one that's higher up the hill is saying something, but I can't see. Oh, I think I said you can do it, or something like that. So I have at different times experimented with doing creatures and other symbolic type of shapes, and doing those first and then seeing what words come later. But clearly in this time I'd obviously written down a lot of words, so that's what I'm playing with. Again, I can't quite see this. It says next phase, attempting to evolve for you. And I've thrown down some music notes. You'll see that, and you'll read if you're reading the Journaling with Cartoons, I do my eyes differently. I tend to do the same kind of squiggly hair, but I do my eyes differently just depending on how I feel and how I want her to express something. Because for me, when I draw the character, it's the feeling that she communicates. And maybe, again, if I was better as an artist, I could have the character, like an anime piece where she looks a particular way. And yet she could be really expressive with having the same kind of shape eyes and different things. But for me, it's kind of it's a play and an experiment, and I wanted her to have bigger eyes. I'm not sure whether I changed this in the dress. The 2 dots, the 2 taps on the screen are to go back a stage. Oh, and now I've accidentally done a line on it. I don't know whether you saw what happened then. I was trying to do the 2 taps to go back a screen and get rid of her dress because I didn't like the shape of it. And I accidentally did a straight line. And've decided, as I saw it, that was one of those Bob Ross happy accident things. I thought, ooh, that looks like something is flying through the air. And so I did an extra couple. And now I've decided what's flying through the air. I don't know if you can tell what I drew here. I was thinking tomatoes flying through the air at her singing. So next stage is attempting to evolve for you. She's singing. There's a new phase for her. But she's getting criticised with the tomatoes flying at her. There are times when I look through and it's quite clear that something is really occupying my mind. But as I'm reading this, I'm not 100% sure what I would look at it and feel. But I'll probably look back in another week or so and think, oh, it's obvious there's a theme. I'm reinventing myself. It's identity. Again, I think that's the point of journals, isn't it? You don't always know at the time what you're trying to say. Once again, I'm looking at this on a very tiny screen. And it says, once you have the language, you can create experiences for yourself that are different. Oh, this one went a bit wonky. I decided I was thinking tulips. Once you have the language, you can create experiences. I don't know if you're going to tell this, but I was trying to draw her tiptoeing through the tulips. And again, this is one that I haven't shared since because it didn't really go well. And yet at the same time, do I stop and change it and delete it all? It is for me to understand. Ultimately, the journaling is for me. And there's a lot of cartoons that I have that may not go particularly well. So, oh, look at those legs. Again, is this a happy accident? Does this make the cartoon better? The fact that those legs are pretty weird. I love the words though. I think that's probably why I feel a bit disappointed about it, is that I really love the words. And then I'm wondering, am I just trying too hard to come up with some image that's different? But if you're going to do this, you may find that there's ones that you love more than others. What am I looking at now? Okay, it don't take much to give bad thoughts wings. This is funny. This is funny because what I've done is I've accidentally left the pink on, and I've accidentally left it too thick. And I'm thinking to myself, do I keep it? Do I keep it? Is this a happy accident, or is this something I just quickly change? And I'm wondering how much to keep. But I'm kind of playing on this now, because the words are about having bad thoughts, and that it doesn't take much to speak to yourself in a bad way. So I thought, oh, that kind of goes with me accidentally drawing in pink. So she's pointing at the pink and saying, wrong. It's kind of funny. I think that's kind of funny. Sometimes these things happen, and that's what I'd encourage you to not always rush to delete something. Sometimes you may have a very particular idea in mind about what you want to draw, and then it's whether you embrace the improv nature. This is unusual. This is one that I've clearly done a little character in, and I'm wondering if I have any inspiration about what she's thinking, what she's feeling. And you'll see what I did there. I did the extra layer. That's I'm not sure. That's me thinking, and I'm not sure. That's funny. I'm watching this and I can see me moving my toes and just kind of whatever. But I don't know whether you can tell. I'm not stressed. I'm thinking, and I'm feeling like I'm not sure I have the answer here. I've come up with an idea now. What's she looking towards, I was thinking. And it could have been that she was saying something, but I decided that she was looking towards the future, and the future was golden. But hopefully you can see that there's a pause of not knowing, but there's a lot of switching off. I'm not looking around the room for inspiration, for example. I'm just thinking, what does she look like she's looking at? What would be fun? How do those words make me feel? This is one from scratch. I suspect I don't know what I'm doing. And you can see long pause. The idea never, well, I say never, very rarely comes fully formed. So what I might do here, for example, okay, I decided, although I'm saying it doesn't always come fully formed, I remember that I'd written down the word octopus, but I hadn't really thought what the octopus could be doing or saying, but I'd written down the word octopus earlier in the week, because I thought, that's quite a good outline. It's quite a good animal that I don't have to be particularly good at. And it would look octopus-like. And people have expectations of what an octopus is. Like, you expect it to be in the water, or you expect it to be holding on to something. So there's a few clues as to what I could do. So I wrote, hold on. Again, what I'll probably do is at some point in the future look back at these and read more into it. At the moment, I remember that I was thinking, how can I draw an octopus? What words might go here? But it didn't feel like I was thinking deeply about it. Again, this is one that I haven't shared yet, because I wasn't sure what it meant didn't particularly seem funny or insightful. It was just one that I was drawing and playing with. Although I've spent about half an hour on the cartoons, sometimes I just scribble one, just do one. And you can see how quick one would be, especially if you've got a little bit of an idea for it. It doesn't have to be a long process. So again, I've done the frame, I've done my name. Sometimes the image or the idea for the image comes from the frame, is just how winky wonky it is. I like to draw the frame fresh each time. I have experimented with doing rulers and straight lines, but that didn't feel like the right energy for me, but it might do for you. Beginning to open up. I don't know where those words came from. Again, I feel like this was a bit of an experiment that went wrong too. I don't think I've shared this one either. When I hear the words beginning to open up, I'm thinking about my own personal story about this, sharing more on social media. Looking at it now, I should have kept it almost like a duck or something, but I didn't. I tried to make it into a girl. I do remember thinking at the time, oh, that looks like a beak. But I had this idea of a mouth was open, very open. But again, like I was saying, it was the beginning to open up is about showing people more of who I am, not showing them inside my mouth. And at the time, it kind of tickled me that you could write something that is so meaningful as they're beginning to open up. And then she looks like she's going to the dentist. Again, you saw that I did that as a layer. It's a bit of a cheap way with the app that you can just do a layer and experiment, see what it looks like. But say for years I was doing felt tip pens and paper. I'm trying to think how to draw to make it look like she's kind of stretching her face to open up that wide, and there's something uncomfortable about it. I don't normally do cheeks, but as I say, I'm trying to give the idea or the feeling that it's harder work or that something's happening. Maybe singing or something. So I'm definitely, when I'm drawing, I'm looking for a feeling, and I do like it when the feelings sort of confuse each other, the feelings that I get from the words and then the feelings from the picture. And there's some sort of play on words or something silly. And now it looks a little bit rabbit or mouse like. And I don't think I like that, so I took that off. What I'm hoping more than anything is that you can see that I'm figuring it out. I'm trying to express myself. And the real fun, the real value is seeing one after the other. Certainly over time. I think people underestimate the value of seeing your own work like a body of work. I'm not sure if I've finished now or if I do one more. If if you're wondering what that section was, you can choose whether it's square or whether it's portrait or landscape. I tend to choose square because I draw a square. Very occasionally I'll draw 3 smaller squares in the middle, so it's like a little mini timeline. So I don't know whether I need to say this, but this is just... I haven't sped this up or slowed this down or anything. Oh yeah, you know when I drew earlier and I accidentally did a line and it looked like movement? I think that was on my mind for this one. And I was like, oh, I think when I've done movement before, I've just done like a couple of little dashes. But this time I was like, oh no, I'm going to do movement with some lines. I wasn't quite sure how to do a leg and... As I say, sometimes it's happy accident. It goes wrong. And then I think that went a bit wrong, but kind of right. Oh. So she's almost done. Because I want the lines to go over the top of the red dress, I've coloured that in first. And I move it down. I think it's to 8. I think I'll change the thickness to 8. So I'm going to draw another layer. I don't know how to put... You see, I'm like, where's her mouth going to be? I'm experimenting. Again, this is one that I haven't shared because I didn't add any words and I wasn't sure that I wanted to add words. But I definitely like that I've played with some movement here. Maybe another week or so I'll figure out what she's doing or what she's saying. There you go. If you want to know more about journaling with cartoons, just sign up at the link. Take care, bye.